We are back with another episode of Tail of the Tape. Today we are talking about Xavier Worthy, wide receiver of the Texas Longhorns, telling the entire story of his college career from start to finish. And this guy came out with a bang in college football his freshman season, but we'll get into that as we get into the video. If you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Now let's get into it. All right, Xavier Worthy, wide receiver of the Texas Longhorns. This is his tale of the tape. 5'11", 165 pounds, exactly 21 years old on the night of the draft. He is born April 27th, 2003. Of course, the draft is April 27th, so his birthday is actually the first round of the NFL draft. Xavier Worthy was a four-star high school recruit out of Fresno, California. He landed with the Texas Longhorns as the number 13 wide receiver in his high school recruiting class in 2021. Obviously, I'm a fan of the Texas Longhorns, so I'm going to try and take out all of my bias in this video as I'm scouting him for Dynasty purposes. But I did watch and observe his entire career at Texas, so I do think I'm actually uniquely qualified to talk about what's going on because he is not an easy evaluation. It's not as simple as saying, you know, he did this, so this is what he projects to be in the NFL. I do think there's a lot left to be, up for debate and up for discussion about Xavier Worthy. So, of course, leave any comments down below. In 2021, Xavier Worthy comes into college football, bursts onto the scene, right? Elite freshman season up there with the likes of Sammy Watkins, Amari Cooper, some of the best wide receiver freshman seasons we've seen in college football. Xavier Worthy came out and had a 41% touchdown share as a true freshman, going over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. For the University of Texas on a team that had a lot of NFL talent on it. Bijan Robinson was the engine of that offense, for example. When you look at his 2021 season, like I said, 103 targets, 981 yards, 12 touchdowns, 80.3 receiving grade as an 18-year-old true freshman. In 2022, we wanted to see him kind of build upon that. That didn't really happen. He battled injuries in 2022. He had a first-year starting quarterback with Quinn Ewers, who was making a lot of rookie mistakes there. Head coach Steve Sarkisian also said he was playing through a broken hand in 2022, so I know everybody likes to harp on Xavier Worthy for drops because it is one of his major concerns on film, but I don't know if you guys know this or not. As a wide receiver, having a broken hand is definitely going to contribute to your ability to catch the football. So if you remove that 2022 season, you look at his drop rate over the course of his career in 2021 and 2023, he had just a 3.6% drop rate, which is actually better than Marvin Harrison's, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr.'s over this draft class. So that 2022 season, obviously not the greatest outcome for him. He only caught 59 passes on 113 targets. But like I said, he was dealing with injury the whole year, still had 8 touchdowns, still averaged 12.8 yards per catch, and had almost a 30% target share that year as well. 2023 season comes around and his usage actually shifted quite a bit. You guys can see he averaged 12.8 yards per reception in 2022. He had a 17 average depth of target in 2022. He was pretty much a pure deep threat. And in 2021, he had a 13.4 average depth of target. This year in 2023, his ADOT was just 10.3 yards. They involved him a lot more at the line of scrimmage, getting him involved in screens and short passes and things of that nature. It is truly wild to me as a Texas fan, seeing how versatile Xavier Worthy was through the course of his 3-year career at Texas, because in 2021, 58% of his total targets came 10-plus yards downfield. In 2022, that number jumped up to 61%, so he was a pure deep threat, basically, in 2022, and then in 2023, that number fell all the way down to just 40%, so he was used a lot more in the short to intermediate game in 2023 as compared to 2022 and 2021. So again, part of this is because Quinn Ewers cannot throw deep. I can tell you right now, all you have to do is pop in the tape with Xavier Worthy or Adonai Mitchell for that matter, and you can see that Quinn Ewers is not a good deep passer, not an accurate passer in general. You will see miss after miss after miss on pretty much every deep throw that Xavier Worthy had thrown his way in 2022 and in 2023, even the short ones. I mean, Ewers is just not an accurate passer in general, had poor ball placement even on those short passes, not allowing Xavier Worthy to do much after the catch, and he obviously made up for it with how talented he is. So I wish we had an opportunity to see Xavier Worthy play with a better quarterback, maybe Arch Manning or somebody like that, because he probably left 400 yards and 5 touchdowns on the field last year in 2023. When you guys look at career passes that were deemed catchable, among the top wide receivers in 2024 class. Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, all these guys outside of Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell were well over 70%. Those guys really suffering from poor quarterback play, and it was very evident with both of their film. The average draft position that we expect for Xavier Worthy, he is expected to go in the first round somewhere of the NFL draft. His current EDP is right around that 1-2 turn area. The Kansas City Chiefs obviously have been linked to Xavier Worthy given his speed, but I also think that the Dallas Cowboys, the Buffalo Bills, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, some of the other teams in that area are good landing spots for Xavier Worthy's skill set. When it comes to actual traits of him on film, of course, we break down the 6 fundamental traits of playing wide receiver in these videos. With Xavier Worthy, you're looking at a guy that has outstanding separation ability. The first ability, fundamental trait number 1 of playing wide receiver, is your ability to get open. And he is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated wide receivers in this class as far as creating separation, being a good route runner, being very urgent and violent with his cuts. When you watch this guy run routes, he is a very natural separator, and it absolutely drives me nuts when all people say about him is, wide receivers who run in the 4.2s are always terrible at the NFL level. That's true. A lot of these wide receivers that have ran in the 4.2s have not translated to fantasy assets. But when was the last time we saw a guy that runs routes horizontally the way that Xavier Worthy does? And my rebuttal to that would be Jalen Waddle is the last time we saw a player like that. And we didn't get to see how fast Jalen Waddle would have ran at the NFL Combine because he broke his ankle midway through his final season at Alabama. So the last time we saw a guy that ran in the 4.2s and could run routes like this, it was Jalen Waddle. That is exactly the comparison I'm going to break down later on in this video. Jalen Waddle and Xavier Worthy have a lot in common, in my opinion. Both Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper have said complimentary things about Xavier Worthy's route running as well, so it's not just me that sees this on film. He knows that the defense fears his speed. That's something that he's able to work off of. He's very good at working his route tree off of that. Curl and comeback routes were really free for this dude because everybody was scared of that 4.21 speed, and he saw a lot of off coverage as a result of that. One of the big concerns with Xavier Worthy is his size, and I'm going to get to that in a second, and I'm sure a lot of people will have concerns with his ability to beat press man coverage from physical outside corners at the NFL level, and that's definitely a concern of his. But at Texas, he played in a pro-style offense. He rarely lined up at X wide receiver because Steve Sarkisian knew that it's a weakness of his game to beat physical corners on the outside. If an NFL coach doesn't see that, I don't really know what they're going to do with him otherwise. So if you're drafting Xavier Worthy as an NFL team, why would you not align him at Z receiver off the line of scrimmage where he's not seeing press coverage? Why would you not move him into the slot occasionally so he's not seeing press coverage? Move him into off coverage against outside corners. Don't use him as an X wide receiver if you're worried about his ability to beat press coverage, because you're right, it's not his biggest strength. He is a little guy. He is 165 pounds. He's not going to beat press man corners at the NFL level that are 200 pounds and have perfect technique. If you want to align him in different ways to get him off the line of scrimmage, that is the best way to use him. Worthy did, though, feast against zone coverage, and I think his releases were relatively solid in general when he did see press coverage. So again, don't want to use him that way at the NFL level, but he does have good physicality. He had good hand technique, and he has really good feet as well. So even when he does see press coverage at the NFL level, I think he'll be okay at beating it. It's just not his biggest strength. So when you get to hands, again, once you get open, you got to catch the ball. This is a well-documented knock on Xavier Worthy's game. A lot of people have pointed out that he drops the ball too much. And again, I can tell you as a University of Texas fan that he did it in crucial situations sometimes when we definitely didn't want him dropping the football. But he did play through a broken hand in 2022, which explains his worst season in terms of drops. And also, in the other 2 seasons, 2021 and 2023 combined, he had just a 3.6% drop rate, 8 drops on 222 targets at age 18 and age 20, respectively. So again, yeah, he struggles with drops sometimes, but he's not really a train wreck in this area of playing wide receiver. He had a couple drops here and there, but it wasn't that big of an issue in my opinion. And again, as I've talked about on numerous occasions, the leaders in the NFL in drops, Puka Nacua, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, these are some of the best receivers in the league. So drops, not a huge issue in my opinion. However, at the catch point, that is the real concern with Xavier Worthy, because When you get him against a physical safety or get him against a physical corner, he's 165 pounds. His career contested catch rate was just 34%. It's not really his game. Fortunately, in the NFL, his speed, his route running ability should make it unlikely that he's seeing a lot of contested opportunities in the first place. If you're always open, you're not going to be making contested catches. But I'd also like to point out that quarterback play factors into contested catchability. And when you watch Xavier Worthy's tape, a lot of his contested catches, the opportunities he had to win those, were because of poorly thrown footballs, underthrown deep balls, poor ball placement. Quinn Ewers sucks. If you guys haven't taken anything away from this video so far, Quinn Ewers' ball placement is horrendous, and 50% of Xavier Worthy's contested opportunities as a freshman were completed when he didn't have Quinn Ewers as his quarterback. 29% when he did, 22 and 23 combined, were his contested catch rates those seasons. So again, quarterback play factors in. Xavier Worthy is not the type of guy who's going to go and alpha and moss a guy in double coverage. That's not his game. That's not the type of receiver he is. But his quarterback did not do him any favors, including throwing him into coverage rather than throwing him open, like we know a lot of good quarterbacks are capable of doing at the next level. So again, contested catches are a concern with Xavier Worthy, but it's not something that I think is detrimental to his overall prospect profile. Number 3 on this list is yards after catch ability, and Xavier Worthy absolutely eats up green grass, man. When you watch this guy after the catch, it's pure speed that is evidenced by his work as a punt returner. He is a very versatile guy. He's averaged an elite 7.3 yards after catch per reception over his career. And again, remember that this was a high average depth of target player for 2 of his 3 seasons at the University of Texas. It's really hard to be that good after the catch and also be a downfield weapon. It's hard to be that explosive and not break angles consistently. There's a play against Oklahoma. I'm sure everybody's seen it when he was a true freshman. He catches a screen pass along the sideline. He runs it right down the sideline, basically erasing the angle of like 3 defenders. He did the same thing against Oklahoma State this year in the Big 12. He's done it over the course of his entire career. You get this guy open space. He's not the most elusive. He's not the most physical guy in the world, but with the ball in his hand, he has that Devon Achane factor. You're not catching him. You're simply not catching this guy in open space. He broke the NFL Combine 40-yard dash record for a reason. Just 16% missed tackles forced after the catch, but again, he's going to erase angles. He's just going to straight up outrun you. He also averaged 8.5 yards per carry anytime he was given the ball as a runner as well. Jet sweeps and things like that, also a part of his game. It's really rare that you get a guy who wins on his routes, has that straight line speed like we've talked about, that 4.21 that he ran, but also has the versatility and the agility to win horizontally, to take design touches. I know it's blasphemous to say, but it really is reminiscent of both of the Dolphins wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Not a lot of wide receivers have that combination, and in my opinion, based on all the film and all the plays that I've watched of Xavier Worthy, he absolutely has that combination. Straight line speed, horizontal agility. It's rare that you see it in college football wide receivers, and Xavier Worthy has it. So number 4 fundamental trait of this video, of course, is 3-level ability. Can you affect the downfield game, intermediate game, and the short game? We don't want receivers to just run fast in a straight line like some small receivers who have good 40 times do. We also don't want them to just get a bunch of design touches. And Xavier Worthy, he's definitely a downfield weapon. He's got the speed for it. He does so much for your offense in terms of drawing safeties over in coverage because they're scared of that 4.21 40, 94 deep targets, and 13 touchdowns over the course of his 3 years at the University of Texas, both leading college football over that span. Quinn Ewers and Xavier Worthy just had a brutal connection downfield. He could have had way more production downfield than he did with Quinn Ewers. It is not a coincidence, in my opinion, that he posted his best PFF receiving grade as a freshman when Quinn Ewers was not there on downfield routes. 95.4 PFF receiving grade in 2021. In 2022 and 2023, that was down to 85. So again, without Quinn Ewers on the field, he was an absolute weapon downfield. Plus, in terms of 3-level ability, like I said, he's comfortable winning on intermediate routes. He had a 92.5 receiving grade on routes of 10 to 19 yards in all 3 seasons of his college career. And then this year, he showed a whole new dimension of his game, which was 24% of his targets on screen passes as well. So before, he was kind of just this downfield guy. He was good over the middle of the field, good in the intermediate area, but we actually didn't see that short part of his game develop until this season. So again, usually when a guy's getting a lot of screen targets, it's a bad thing. But this was the only year that we saw that out of Xavier Worthy. He was only asked to do that in 2023, and it made up for a lot of Quinn Ewers' deficiencies as a deep passer. He can literally do anything on the field, if you guys haven't caught on by this point, to the level of Marvin Harrison, Romo Dunze, and Malik Neighbors. Because to be honest, when you look at the other wide receivers in this tier 2 of the NFL draft, Brian Thomas Jr., Troy Franklin, A.D. Mitchell, Keon Coleman. A lot of those guys were more deep threats. And then a guy like Ladd McConkey, more of a short to intermediate threat. Xavier Worthy can do anything on the field. And like I said, it is to the level of Marvin Harrison, Romo Dunze, and Malik Neighbors in this specific trait where he can do anything on the field. Number 5, athleticism. Of course, we need to know that our wide receivers are going to win in the ways that they should be winning. I could keep this part short because he ran 4.21 at the combine. It's very obvious he's very fast. It's very obvious he's also explosive because he jumped 41 inches and had a 10-11 broad jump, which is also an underrated part of his game. Not often do you see guys that fast who are also that explosive. And again, I know everybody's going to go to the comments and say, when was the last time a guy who ran in the 4.2s was really good for fantasy? And let me point you to Jalen Waddle, Marquise Brown, Devontae Smith, Tyreek Hill, Deshaun Jackson. Maybe they're not all as fast as Xavier Worthy, but they all are fast wide receivers who are undersized. Those guys are all like 4.3 or faster dudes who've been successful at 165 to 180 pounds. Last year, we saw Jordan Addison, Tank Dell, and Josh Downs all have success as smaller wide receivers as well. A lot of dudes too, Jalen Waddle, Marquise Brown, and Devontae Smith, never tested at the combine. So we didn't get to see how fast they were. Ergo, we don't have that data set of a guy who ran in the 4.2s. And with a guy like Jalen Waddle, as I've talked about already, he did not test at the NFL Scouting Combine. He would have ran in the 4.2s, and that would be your example. When was the last time a guy who ran in the 4.2s produced at the NFL level? Jalen Waddle. That's the guy that I'm going to point to. I know it's a small sample size of fast wide receivers who have this good of a production profile like Xavier Worthy has, but if you're going to bet on anybody to buck the trend of fast wide receivers, bet on Xavier Worthy, in my opinion. You could see the athletic comparisons between Xavier Worthy and Deshaun Jackson, Xavier Worthy and Tyreek Hill. Again, Marquise Brown, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, these guys never tested at the combine, so we don't have those athletic comparisons to go off of. Number 6 fundamental trait of the video is production profile. And again, this speaks for itself. We know that Xavier Worthy has an elite production profile. He had a 41% touchdown share as an 18-year-old true freshman at the University of Texas. That is the best an 18-year-old has ever produced in Campus to Canton's database. 3 seasons of 25% plus of his team's targets. And he was competing with real NFL competition. Adonai Mitchell, Jatavian Sanders, Jordan Whittington, of course, all those running backs that they've had at Texas, Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson, and Jonathan Brooks. An 18.4 breakout age. That is 98th percentile. Career yards per team pass attempt over expected, which basically means the average of a wide receiver prospect who went to become a top 24 fantasy wide receiver. If you have a positive number, that is an extremely good sign. Xavier Worthy's is 0.43. The only 3 wide receivers in this class with a positive number in this metric are Malik Neighbors, Xavier Worthy, and Marvin Harrison Jr., and Xavier Worthy ranks second in this class in that metric. He had a 34% target share against man coverage this year in 2023. His profile is as nails as it gets. Outside of the size, if he was 6 foot, 190 pounds, we would not be having this discussion. He would be in contention for wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 in this class. He turns just 21 years old on the night of the NFL draft. So much left for him to learn at the NFL level. I will die on this hill. I will go down with the ship. Jordan Addison was my guy last year. Drake London was my guy in 2022. Devontae Smith was my guy in 2021. Xavier Worthy, I am not overthinking this dude. He is getting over scrutinized, just like those other guys were in years past. Worthy is that guy for me this offseason. He is an absolute stud. Some of the subjective things that also factored into my grade. Such a tough player. Drops his shoulder against Alabama and continues to work upfield and keep running. He absolutely leveled a dude on the goal line against Oklahoma State. Again, do you want your 165-pound wide receiver doing that? Probably not. But the fact that he's willing to do it and he plays that tough is exactly what you want to see when you have an undersized wide receiver. Because again, you want to talk about Marquise Goodwin, why he didn't work out. You want to talk about Dree Archer, why these guys didn't work out. They're soft. They're not football players. They're track stars. Xavier Worthy is a football player who happens to be really fast, not a track star playing football. That is a big distinction. He is tough enough to play the game at a high level. He's got some refinement work to do, of course. He's a young player, but he's also very experienced for his age, because you don't usually see a 21-year-old come into the NFL with 3 years of starting experience in a Power 5 conference, who was the number one receiver of his team, 18, 19, and 20 years old. That is not very common, and Xavier Worthy still has a lot to learn at the NFL level, but I'm very confident he will learn it at the NFL level. That underdog, that dog mentality, it shows up throughout his entire film session. So again, final grade on Xavier Worthy. You guys can obviously tell I'm very high on him. My grade on him was 85 out of 100. He is my wide receiver 4 in this class, behind Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. Again, he was docked for things like size, drops, contested catch rate. You guys probably know the weaknesses at this point on Xavier Worthy's tape, but the strengths are very evident. He has the speed, he has the explosiveness, he has the elite agility of a Jalen Waddle, of a Tyreek Hill. He's tough as nails. He has a great age profile. He also is very good after the catch. He's very productive. He has a lot going for him outside of those small weaknesses. He would have been my wide receiver 3 in last year's class, just a hair below the grade I gave to JSN and Jordan Addison. The ideal landing spot for Xavier Worthy, I think it's pretty obvious. We all want him to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think given the area of the draft that he's going to go, I think the Buffalo Bills are also a very good landing spot. Big armed quarterback, pass heavy offense. I also love the Dallas Cowboys as a really good landing spot. Keep him in the state of Texas. Schematically, he also really makes sense for Miami Dolphins. I don't think they're going to take him. San Francisco 49ers, same thing. But Tyreek Hill has threatened retirement after the season. Maybe the Dolphins look ahead with that position. Brandon Ayuk has been in discussion of trades as well. Maybe the 49ers look ahead at that position. I don't think he's going to go to either of those teams, but I think schematically he would be a perfect fit for those offenses. And also, too, I mean, the best part of Xavier Worthy is wherever he's going to go, he fits all schemes. Every receiving core could use a guy like Xavier Worthy. So whether he goes 15 to the Colts or 28 to the Bills, he fits the offense perfectly. So again, would I like him to go with a great quarterback who's going to throw it all over the yard? Absolutely. But even if the Chargers or the Cardinals trade down with the Vikings and pick up the 23rd pick in the process, I think he fits the Chargers offense really well. I think he fits the Cardinals offense really well as well. So even if he falls round 2, I like the idea of him on the Carolina Panthers. With Xavier Worthy, he fits pretty much every scheme, but the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and the Bills are definitely the teams that he fits the best. In terms of overall rookie draft outlook, he is currently my wide receiver 26 among all wide receivers in Dynasty, including rookies and veterans alike. I have him just ahead of the Seahawks duo of wide receivers, JSN and DK Metcalf, and right behind George Pickens. In terms of where he actually sits, in terms of my overall wide receiver rankings, I'd spend a top 5 to 6 round startup pick on him. And then in terms of rookie drafts, he's currently ranked as my 108/109, depending on draft capital for JJ McCarthy. I'm willing to bet people will let him fall past 108 to 109. You'll get him at 111, 112, 201 in a lot of people's drafts. And then in one quarterback leagues, I have him ranked as my 105. So he will 100% be one of my highest rostered players in all of Dynasty Fantasy Football rookie drafts, because I love Xavier Worthy. My eyes are not lying to me. I think he's a stud Jalen Waddle clone. My numbers are not lying to me as well. He was very productive for multiple years. We have not seen a lot of 4-2 wide receivers hit. I understand that, but not a lot of 4-2 wide receivers were as productive with as good of a profile and as good of film as Xavier Worthy are. Take the leap and bet on Xavier Worthy. He is my dude for the 2024 rookie class. Again, if you disagree, leave any comments down below. I already addressed some of his weaknesses, so if you're going to say he's too small, if you're going to say he drops the ball too much and can't win in contested situations, that factored into my grade, but I do think he can overcome those things. And of course, we did do a film breakdown on Xavier Worthy on the site as well, so if you want to see us break down his film, all 22 style, all of our film breakdowns that we have live right now, we have Marvin, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr., and now Xavier Worthy as well. Head on over to flockfantasy.com. Use the promo code FSE to get 30% off any of the packages. You can get our film breakdowns when you sign up over there. 7 days for free, 6 months for free when you sign up annually as well. And then also, too, I mean, if you're a Dynasty player, this is just the best place to be. Our Dynasty trade calculator, which is fully customizable to your league. Our Dynasty rankings, Superflex, one quarterback, trade value charts. Everything you could need as a Dynasty fantasy football player is on flockfantasy.com. So make sure to check that out if you guys are interested. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.